Hello and welcome to another episode of the Tip Balls Podcast. I am your host, Sam Randazzo, and I am joined today by my two rather sunburned co-hosts. To my right, it is the one, the only, Uncle Sam.
Hello.
And to my left, it is none other than our very own Mr. Zolo, Mike Palazzolo.
Did you say you did get burned, Uncle Sam?
No, I'm not burned.
Oh, I got burned yesterday.
I got cooked pretty good.
I've been staying inside. I don't like the sun.
Yeah, I'm peeling.
And fresh off a wonderful trip to Nashville, Tennessee, after a much-needed weekend of recouping from doing a whole lot of nothing, it is Bruce the Tugboat Venditti.
What's up?
All right, 4th of July, fireworks. Everybody got their digits still? Nobody lost a digit this weekend. You
I don't do fireworks.
Okay, you used to do fireworks in
Yes,
the
I
biggest
did.
way humanly possible.
As soon as they legalized it in the state of Michigan, I vowed never to do it again.
It wasn't fun anymore.
It wasn't fun
legal.
anymore. It was
Didn't you
fun.
do fireworks too?
I carried it on after they quit.
I quit doing it after they legalized it in Michigan.
They used to fill up garages full of fireworks.
Where'd you go, Indiana or Ohio?
Ohio. Phantom Fireworks. It was just a little garage on the side of the road, on the side of Interstate 2 in Ohio. It was like a little garage. Then all of a sudden, they had so much business that it opened up. It looked like a CVS. Now they're all over the place.
All right, so
Crazy.
if you weren't playing with fireworks, what
No.
did you do this weekend?
Well, made some baby back ribs
Ooh.
on my smoker,
Ooh.
Wow.
on a real smoker.
We still
a
have you
barbecue
tipped
smoker,
meats.
not a
Friendly
not
reminder.
a fucking electric
meats.
one.
Tipped meats.
Had some more burgers, 18 burgers,
There we go.
You ate all 18 yourself,
corn on the
right?
cob. I'm sorry?
I
You
didn't
ate
ask
all
what
18 of them yourself,
No.
right?
I didn't ask you what you ate. I asked what you did. Is that all you did was eat?
That's all I did. I went to Detroit St. Hedwig, say
Okay.
happy birthday to my daddy.
Anyways,
By the way, he was said to give you his best.
okay. Zolo, how was your weekend? Anything? Quiet one?
Yeah, it didn't do much for a 4th of July weekend, but we're here. I still have all the digits, if you
All the
were
digits.
asking about that.
Digit inventory complete.
I didn't view any fireworks unless they were people blowing them off the street. I didn't go watch any last night.
Neither did I.
All the little hillbillies that live behind my house, they were shooting them off last night. I was watching it from my bedroom window.
So I was driving home, and I was on 75, and there was nothing until I hit Flint, and Flint was lit up like a Christmas tree.
Love that.
Yeah.
Entirety of Flint. And then the rest of the way home, it was nonstop. Everywhere you looked out the car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The best fireworks shows are hillbilly fireworks shows at home and then Chaldean fireworks shows at home.
Oh, yeah, they go all in.
Chaldeans don't fuck around.
Yeah, it's thousands of dollars in ammunition.
Everywhere.
Bruce, how was Nashville?
Good time. Good time.
Did you eat anything? Where'd you go eat?
My guess is they
I
ate at
could not
McDonald's
tell
every
you
day.
a single place.
Did you go to Hattie B's?
Name?
Hattie B's?
No.
Did you go to Prince's?
No.
Okay.
We went to some pretty
Worthless.
fancy brunch places, though. It was-
What, McDonald's?
Would you go to the Southern?
Dude, I don't know the names.
How
I have
do you
no
go eat
idea.
places and you don't you go out of town and you go eat.
I
and you
book
don't
restaurants
remember
based
There's
on
an
where I'm going to
itinerary
eat.
somewhere.
Or
Yeah,
I book vacations based on where I'm going to
1000%.
eat.
But I
Like
didn't
I
do
do
any of
that,
the
then I
planning.
get the ticket.
Correct. If
didn't
I
do
can't
any
get the
of that.
reservation, I'm not going that week.
I'm not going, yeah.
Exactly. What the fuck?
I didn't do the planning.
So
Somebody else
then-
did the planning. She knows all the names.
You don't remember where you went to
Who did
eat?
the planning?
My friend Brendan's girlfriend, Sammy.
Okay, but you don't remember
Shout out
even
to Sammy.
being there.
What?
You don't remember going to eat? What did you eat?
Yeah. What did you-
Basically, hot Nashville chicken sandwiches every time.
That was it. All you did for 3 days.
Yeah,
was
I
chicken.
mean,
Then on top of that, on the way
chicken and
home,
waffles. I had some chicken and waffles.
on the way home, the car blew up and they were stranded on the side of the road.
How long did that last?
I want to say.
Where were you?
an
Where were you
extra
stranded?
2-3 hours.
Yeah,
Where were you stranded at?
Lima, Ohio.
Lima.
Oh, that's not
Been
far
there.
from here. That's a tease. You were close, yeah.
Yeah.
That sucks.
That wasn't that far from here.
We almost made it.
Yeah.
And
That's
the
shitty.
alternator just decided to take a shit.
Was that your car? Did you take your car?
No,
No, the LHS lives.
the LHS.
The LHS lives.
It lives.
Did you eat anything fantastic? Anything to write home about there, anything?
Girlfriend made some really good pasta salad. I got some
go.
skewers from the Dearborn Meat Market, not the Heights, the Dearborn Meat Market. I got them and I didn't make them. I'm making them tonight. Yeah, I didn't really. We ate okay yesterday. Did some dogs,
There you
natural
go.
casing.
A little glizzy.
That's it.
Yeah, I grilled 3 nights in a row. It was fabulous. We did a sausage night. You would have been proud. We did.
What kind? What kind of sausage?
We had fennel.
The best.
We had spicy Italian. We had jalapeno and cream cheese filled.
Oh my god.
And let me
Italian
tell
sausage?
you, huh?
Italian sausage?
No, it was some German brand. It was like a brat almost.
Really?
But it was stuffed with jalapeno and cream cheese, and they had.
Oh, wow.
Like, you had chunks of jalapeno in there, and there were some seeds in there still.
Oh yeah.
It was. Those were fabulous.
You piss those seeds out later
Oh yeah,
too.
yeah. It was like my asshole turned into Japanese flag.
Slapping popsicles on there to cool it off.
Then
Uncle Sam, you're gonna hate this. The least Italian thing about me is that I don't like Italian sausage.
wow.
I don't like bratwurst. Not that I don't like it. I love it. There's good Italian sausage. I'm sick of it. I think the Polish do the sausage the best.
I honest to God, I almost have to agree. If you get a good
Like a kielbasa is my favorite.
Well,
And
we do the kielbasa on Christmas, and that's
Correct.
outstanding.
Oh my God.
Burners,
kielbasa
cooking in burners.
I
If-
believe it. You get that little sweet with the onions too. I know what you're saying.
If it's burnt, it's got to be snappy.
It's got to have crunch
It's
to it.
gotta
The
crisp
outside's
up.
got to be crunch. The inside's got to be
There
soft.
have been times where it's too soft on the outside and it's kind of like a wet dick, but you've got to crisp up that skin and
So
it's delicious.
the jalapeno cream cheese, my favorite sausage at the moment. Don't care who makes it. I mean, Johnsonville is a good one if you're buying just
better.
regular.
Are you gonna say better with cheddar?
Just cheddar jalapeno in general.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
there's a good spot in Eastern Market in the shed that's enclosed that brings sausage from somewhere in Middle Michigan, and they have everything, and it's really fucking good. And any combination you could think of, and there's pork, there's beef, and
We're gonna need to get on that.
So I
Yeah.
got the idea.
Listen, you don't ever fuck around with Italian sausage. It's got to be pork, period.
yeah, of course.
Don't ever do
course.
turkey.
Well, how do you feel about hot dogs? Can hot dogs be beef?
I personally would not. I've had turkey dogs. You really
No,
can't
I didn't
tell
say
the
turkey.
difference.
I said beef.
I like beef hot.
Okay.
Yes.
Because not last night before. So it was the
Those
Monday.
Wagyu ones we got from.
That's
Those are excellent.
Those are
I
the
did
shit.
Fairway.
I don't
Wagyu,
care what anybody says.
They're the best.
Fairways,
yeah.
Wagyu hot dogs are the best I've ever
Good
had.
fat content,
Oh,
good
yeah.
flavor.
And the
Used to be
outside
Tony Paco's.
outside grill
Tony
stuff.
Pacos.
Tony Paco's my second favorite.
Those were awesome.
Those were
too.
good hot dogs. I did the Wagyu burger. I did the Wagyu dog. Night before I did Wagyu New York strips and ribeyes. Everything was fat. It was a great weekend of meat. I'm not gonna lie. It was a fabulous meat.
Tipped meats.
Whenever you have meat for
Sponsor
the whole
us,
weekend,
Fairway.
You're
Yes,
doing pretty.
3
You're doing
nights of
something
meat.
right.
And then
Remember that, Bruce.
because I made 10 hot dogs. I had
Okay.
2 left because I made 10 hot dogs, 10 burgers. I had 2 hot dogs left over. Killed them for breakfast the next day. It was,
Nothing better than fucking hot dogs in the morning.
that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Glizzy omelets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was fabulous.
Nothing better.
Anyways,
All right, I got your itinerary.
okay.
12:30 club,
I have no idea.
Pass.
assembly hall we went to.
Assembly halls.
Mm-hmm.
There was Prince's in there. You should have went to the Prince's that's in there.
That's a food. It's a food
Yeah,
hall, right?
yeah.
What is it, like a food
Very good.
court?
My
Yeah,
favorite
Kind of
concept.
attached to the Renaissance.
They have some time. There's
Okay.
a coffee place in there called Elixir Coffee.
I think we got
They have it was a butterscotch and pink peppercorn latte, fabulous. And they had a strawberries and cream latte, both
See,
fabulous.
you got to understand something. You go places with this guy, and you got to. I couldn't afford to eat there. I would be at the Winn-Dixie buying my own food and cooking it.
the Hampton Social Rooftop,
That's a chain, garbage.
Oh, okay.
Blanco, Cavina, and Cantina,
I have no idea.
and that's it. Those are just everything was dinner reservations, and then brunch. We basically went to the assembly hall. So
Assembly Hall is good. There was some good shit in there.
Make your own shit.
Anyways,
Learn how to smoke
got
meat.
an
you're staying in a
Airbnb, we
hotel.
would've-
What are you gonna do? I mean, you're gonna
if we
cook?
had an Airbnb, we
Absolutely.
were going to, but we didn't. So
Anyways, we got to talk about some football because we just spent 15 minutes talking about meat.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Oh, you want to know what? Hold on, before we get into the meat. So I don't really do liquor anymore. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm more of a. I get real intrigued by like the Mike's Hard Lemonade thing. I get
Okay.
intrigued by the twisted tea. I'm big on twisted tea right
About
now.
Please, oh my
seltzers,
God,
like Nooners?
please,
I am.
Rocket
I
Pop,
like the Nooner. I don't like the tequila Nooner.
I agree.
Fair.
I like the Blue Label Nooner.
I got a
That's that shit
tequila
that we had
seltzer
here,
for
no?
you, by the way.
And you were drinking?
yeah,
High
there's
Noon?
been high
Yeah.
noons here.
Yeah.
That's you, High
Not
Noon.
Tweez. You've never seen Tweez before.
Okay, they had a 4th of July edition Twee, and it was a bomb pop,
It's Rocket Pop.
rocket pop, whatever
Yeah.
the fuck, flavored twisted
Comes
tea.
in a 12-pack, but only comes with 3 Rocket Pop.
Yes,
It's
because
stupid.
but this is the thing. So I usually don't like
Bruce has
peach-
had 3 Rocket Pops before, one in each hand and one. Well, anyway.
I usually don't like peach flavored things because it tastes like too much of fake peach. The peach twisted tea was my favorite one in the box in the variety pack. Picked it up at the gas station in West Branch. That gas station in West Branch,
That's where Botcher stops.
I have never seen an array of meat sticks. They got like 37 different brands.
Gary,
Tip
no
meats, I'm
football.
telling you, tip
Every-
meats.
Oh,
Tip
but they,
meat.
you know what? They have good shit in there, dude.
That gas station
Yes.
had more jerky than the jerky outlet. And that's
Yes.
no bullshit. They out jerkied the fucking jerky.
They out jerked the jerk outlet.
And another good stop, and we left too late yesterday because I wanted to hit it. You've been to Wilson's Cheese Shop in Pinconning?
No.
I mean, we're talking thousands of different. I like to get the meat sticks, good meat sticks, like
Right.
the Amish, not fucking Jack Links, Amish
No.
fucking meat sticks. 4 or 5 different flavors. You stop at Wilson's, you pick up 4 or 5 different kinds of good cheese curds, and you motor home.
You motor home.
You motor home. Anyway,
Every time I would go to my dad's, I would stop out at the jerky outlet
there
right
is
by
one
his
out that
house.
way, isn't there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
out in you know what.
Anyways,
But
let's talk about football. I mean, the biggest piece of news I saw from a pretty slow 4th of July weekend for the most part was Turfgate. So it's pretty well documented. A lot of players who played in the Super Bowl had issues with the grass, and that whoever the old man is that grows it all.
Who used to work for the Chiefs, if I remember correctly, too. Do you remember that? It was he does every Super Bowl. He works for the Chiefs.
Correct.
Fact check me on this. And this was his last Super Bowl. And there was a conspiracy theory that he rigged it in favor of the Chiefs. But the Chiefs were sliding all over, too, if I remember correctly.
George Toma,
Was that him?
Wait a minute.
Kansas City. So he's from Kansas City.
I thought he was.
Attended the turf at every single Super Bowl.
And that was his last one, right?
That was his last
It
one.
should be
before
his
he hung
last
it
one
up.
because it was fucking awful.
Yeah, he specializes in working sports facilities. He's one of few surviving people that has attended every Super Bowl game. His nickname is the Sod Father.
Yeah, but I heard he had done the game with the Michigan and TCU. He had did that field also, and that, field
was
was
a bad
fucking
turf.
shit show.
And that was a bit. If that's true,
That was
I didn't know
awful.
that. I didn't know that. If that was true, same drill. People sliding
Correct.
all over the place
Correct.
in that field.
Guess what?
It was the same turf. Wasn't
I
the
mean,
Super Bowl in the stadium there?
Yes.
So the Super
Yeah.
Bowl was in University of
Same
whatever they're
stadium.
calling it now, the whatever in
Same
Glendale.
stadium, same
So-
problem.
Yes, he did work for the Chiefs. He was originally started out as the groundskeeper
Yep.
for Arrowhead and Truman, which is where the Royals play, or Kaufman, whatever that you want to fucking call it. Kaufman, yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
would they have an advantage? They're used to playing on that kind of shit. I would say, yeah, absolutely.
Well, this is where it gets interesting because Brandon Graham came out and said,
Shout out to Detroit, Brandon Graham. Shout out to
shout
Michigan.
out to, there's going to be actually two Detroit mentions in this. Sorry, I'm looking for the quote. And I'm having trouble finding it. Either way, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, we'll talk about first while I find this, came out and said that he tried out 3 different pairs of cleats to try and get footing on the field.
By the half, he had tried out 3 pairs of cleats.
Correct. 3.
By the half,
Yeah.
And the studs
Okay.
would not grip the field. Would not grip the field. That's kind of an issue. I mean, if you have 3 different types of cleats and they ain't gripping the field,
they showed it.
That's an issue.
The whole team had. There was like 50 different cleats on the sidelines.
so that's interesting. Brandon Graham said that their defensive line was extremely dominant all year, would have dominated the Kansas City Chiefs in that game, but literally could not gain any sort of footing to get any explosion. off the
I
line
remember
against their
watching
offensive line.
on probably at least 5 occasions where these guys were on their knees coming off the line and were slipping all over the field. And it was more than once I seen it, and I think it did make a difference in the game, because with them not being able to tee off, that kind of throws their whole rhythm defensively off.
So the Eagles' D front was historic last year. They would have broken the sacks record,
Correct.
if I remember correctly. And then Jordan Davis got injured, and he was a big part of their defensive success last year. You could tell he's fired up because they're still talking about it today.
Correct.
And I think the Chiefs, I remember reading in that article, the Chiefs' offensive line was wearing shirts that said 0 sacks because Mahomes didn't get sacked in the Super Bowl. And it completely, like, I think Brandon Graham was really careful. He treaded really nicely. He's like, credit to them because they had to play on the same turf and they didn't have issues. But our D line relies on getting low and being low to the ground, and you rely on that leverage you get from the turf. And if we can't anchor into the turf, that
Correct.
causes problems. And if you remember, Mahomes carved them up in the second half, in particular in the fourth quarter. And I don't disagree with Brandon Graham. I think the turf had a lot to do with it. And on top of that, the turf has been a big issue league-wide over the last couple years for a number of reasons. Inconsistency, unsafe playing surfaces, guys getting injured left and right. This isn't just a Super Bowl problem. And the Lions actually at Ford Field replaced their turf this winter. There's going to be brand new turf at Ford Field this year. It's been replaced twice over the last 10 years after not being replaced once since the building opened, if I remember correctly. And I think turf is an actual issue that we need to talk about and keep an eye on going forward.
I agree 1,000%. I mean, Brandon Graham, I found the quote. They got blessed that we weren't able to get traction off the block and slipped the entire game. I mean, Hassan Reddick chimed in this week too on it. This is obviously an issue. You don't really see it that way.
As what?
Do you think this was an issue that was focused mainly
Listen,
on
I've been
Philadelphia?
talking about turf for
You
fucking
always
years.
have. I'm
dude.
aware of that.
I've
but
complained about
do
artificial
you
turf.
think it cost the Eagles the Super Bowl?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, I do. I truly believe that. I truly believe by their defensive line not being able to do what they did to all these other teams because of the footing. I think it cost them.
They
Absolutely.
did damage. Their D front did damage against. I'm not going to call Mahomes a lesser quarterback because he's the best quarterback in the league, in my opinion. But their D front did damage against way more mobile quarterbacks last year.
Absolutely.
And they should have been able to get to Mahomes no problem, regardless of how Houdini-like he is. They should have been able to get to him that game, and they were close a couple times, and you could just see guys slipping up left and right.
Listen, I truly believe that the turf being that bad was an advantage to Kansas City.
Yeah.
I do.
Now,
Obviously, their guy, their groundskeeper, they're used to fucking playing with the
Show
on
the
this
man
guy's
respect, Sodfather.
shit.
The side.
Show the
Whatever.
Sodfather
He's
respect.
fucking garbage. This field was garbage for the Super Bowl, garbage for the Michigan game, fucking trash. He needs to be fired anyway. If he's not retiring, he needs to be fired.
I think
he
he
was
bowed out.
awful.
There's
think he
also,
bowed out.
that was his last Super Bowl. There's also a bigger picture thing in that stadium. They keep the sod outside. Have you ever seen it before? It was the first of its kind, and
Yeah.
now it's in a couple places in the world. The sod is outside.
Why?
And they water it all week,
Why?
and then they lift the stands up and it
Fucking
wheels in
stupid.
during.
Why?
Have you ever
Correct.
seen the video
Yes.
before?
Yes.
They
Does
get-
that have a retractable?
get-
It has a retractable roof.
It does have a retractable roof.
But they can't
Open the
water it.
fucking
They can't
room.
water it inside.
I think
Why?
there's. I don't know the
It's 100
specifics.
Fucking 10 degrees.
It's really hot there, and that's why they're
Correct.
thinking we can manage this outside. I know Tottenham does it in the Premier League, and then other NFL. The Raiders might do that with their turf as
I
well.
believe they do. It comes out.
It's a new thing. It didn't work. Like it did. Like that's.
Obviously, it didn't work. It was awful. Dude.
I know Super Bowls have been played there before, and big college games are played there every other year. I didn't know. I know it was the same turf that they played on, but if Sodfather had something to do with it, I'm going to be pissed. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he did.
And
it was the same field that Michigan had played on. What, 4 weeks earlier?
Yeah.
Come on, dude.
Yeah.
Hey, it's not a fucking brain surgery. That
the-
field was awful.
Whether it's a big deal or a little deal, or whether you want to blame it or you don't, the fact of the matter is we're talking about it. It's a story. Turf
Yeah.
is a problem.
6 months later.
6 months later, I hate to always make it about the Lions. No, I don't. Fuck that. I love making it about the Lions all the time. I'm going to look at the camera for this one. Apparently, the playing surface was so cold on Christmas Eve against the Panthers that it was deemed unsafe, and the NFL still threw them out there anyways. Same drill. The Lions' defensive front got shredded, and they were giving up 10 yards of play on the run. Of course, the personnel was bad, and it didn't affect the other team as much. But same drill. You want consistent playing surfaces no matter what. So this isn't a story. And here we are. Turf is a story in the NFL right now between injuries and guys tearing ACLs and rolling ankles and the Achilles, everything.
A lot of that
That's because
stuff
of
has
turf.
to do with the artificial turf.
Yeah.
Because there's no give in it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no give in artificial turf. I know I played on artificial turf in the Pontiac Silverdome, and when you would hit that shit, because it was plastic.
And that was thin.
You got up and you were burnt.
That was nothing.
You
That was
were
like
burnt.
a couple centimeters.
It was like falling off a motorcycle in the middle of fucking concrete.
Yeah.
And it was hard too.
Yep.
It wasn't soft. You hit that shit, it was hard. You know, and you get burnt. I remember my hands, my elbows, my knees, my shins were just everything was raspberried right off.
So he's 94 years old. I didn't know this.
Whatever. He
sod
needed to
father.
retire 10 years ago, 20 years ago.
And he had some things to say this week as well. So,
Okay.
Even though he had priorly praised league field director Ed Manigan for his work prior to the game, Toma has now blamed Manigan for overwatering the playing surface and then immediately bringing the portable surface back indoors without allowing the grass to absorb sunlight in the days coming up to the game. And he has now blamed him for failing to sand the surface properly or in a timely manner and covering the field with a tarp while it was still wet, giving it over moisturization and a foul smell.
Tipped lawns.
Well, you know what?
Tipped lawns territory.
It all smells foul to me. It all smells foul to me.
And the
it is
league-
what it is. They know.
Guess what the league did? Do you want to say it?
Go ahead.
The league is blaming the players. In true NFL fashion, taking the dumbest way out, the league blames the players for the playing surface instead
Blaming
of
them for
fessing
falling
up.
all over the fucking field like
Instead of
retards.
just saying, we had bad turf that game. We won't make
You know
the
what?
mistake again. Ray Rice beat the shit out of that woman. We didn't suspend him for long enough.
I can't argue that. Yes, they came out and said that the players wore the wrong cleats. But then you got Gardner Johnson coming out.
They had at least 20 guys talking about we changed cleats fucking 3 times
Oh, 100%.
and still couldn't get no traction. What are they supposed to do?
I don't know. I mean, you had guys like Gardner Johnson went through 3 different sets of cleats.
Before
I mean,
the
and
half.
it was both ways.
Before the half,
Chris
he said.
Jones came out and said this week too that he couldn't get traction at the line. I mean, it was everything.
Yeah, maybe he couldn't. But like I said, I got a feeling these guys are used to playing on this guy's type of surfaces, obviously, because he was the groundskeeper there forever.
So you think George Toma, the sod
No,
father, fixed
I
the
don't
Super
think
Bowl?
I don't think that
That's
they
the
fixed
theory.
anything. But I will say
sod
this:
father.
if you're used to playing on a surface that's a little fucking spongy, you're gonna approach it differently. And if you're not, and you're coming in off of playing somewhere else.
Yeah, but they're not
Hence-
used to it because
Here we go.
the
Bruce is
guy
coming.
just came out and said that it was somebody else's fault in the NFL. So they're not used to it.
What are you talking about?
Both teams were affected by it. Quit the bitching. The turf
I would say
sucks.
one team was affected more than the other. The team that has a fucking defense that was off the chain obviously is affected more than they are.
Listen, if anybody,
You're not close enough to the microphone.
You're looking at a team that blew everybody else
get
by at least 10 to 15 sacks on the year as a team.
correct?
Okay? Nobody was close to them
Okay.
when it came to sack totals. That's the name of their game, dude. You take that away, there you go.
Look, I think you
City
nailed
didn't
it.
do either.
I think you nailed it, Uncle Sam. Number one, we're talking about it, so it's an issue in itself that we're talking about it. Number two, one would think if the man that was the sod guy from Kansas City, like
The
even if
sod
it's not
god?
truth, even if it's not true, it's just like in this country, they say you're innocent until proven guilty. That's not true. You're guilty until proven innocent. Until there's facts indicating that the turf isn't similar to what the Arrowhead turf is, and he didn't like until there's actual facts that go with it instead of he said she said in a blame game. And you're not wrong. Also, it went both ways.
Using the facts would be having the facts.
It
would be totally different.
It affected both teams. We watched the game.
I'm not saying it didn't affect Kansas City too, but what I'm saying is if
They
they're
might be
used
more
to
used
playing
to it.
on fields,
There's a chance
this guy is done.
if it's
they
similar
have an
to
advantage.
Arrowhead, if it's in any way similar to Arrowhead, maybe they gleaned like it could have been a little more easy to work with for them. They could have adjusted quicker, and then they
Because
had a
if you
monster
want to go
second
2
half.
weeks prior to the Super Bowl, they were unstoppable. They were getting around the corner and actually getting the quarterbacks left and right. Ask Brock Purdy. Who's the other dude that backed him up? Fucking Doug Flutie. Who was it? Who was it? The guy backing up Brock Purdy?
I don't know.
That
Didn't
got
Garoppolo
hurt
get
too?
in that game?
Give me a break, dude. Every quarterback on
Garoppolo.
fucking
McCaffrey.
San Francisco roster got fucking put in the fucking sleep. Come on, dude. What are we talking about? You know what it is. Did they have an advantage? Absolutely.
Josh
they did.
Johnson.
Josh Johnson.
Josh Johnson.
There you go. Ask Josh Johnson.
Blame game goes to the NFL. It doesn't go
The blame goes to, you know what? The NFL's the NFL.
garbage.
Don't even get me fucking started with them.
Moving on.
Them pricks.
So, Mike Vick had some comments about one of his former coaches this week, and he said that Andy Reid is inarguably the greatest coach ever. I want to hear
Ever
your
to what?
thoughts. To ever coach. What do you
To ever coach?
Ever to eat cheeseburgers. The fuck are you
I
talking
don't know.
about here?
Whatever
He might have that
does.
title too.
Yeah, I know.
Huh? Is he the greatest coach? No, because I think Belichick's better than he is.
Okay.
What?
If you're going to make an argument for anybody, I guess it would be
Belichick is the most winningest, obviously. But he
Oh,
passed-
you know
Every
what?
time.
I am so fucking sick
Am-
and
am I
tired
wrong?
of you with your bullshit.
Is he the most winningest coach? Did he
winningest.
pass
Yes.
Don Shula?
I mean,
wins?
I don't
I
know
thought
about
he did,
I don't know
yes.
about in total wins, but regardless, he's got the 6 rings, right, or 5
I
rings,
mean,
whatever it is.
that's what it is.
And that's
But,
just
do
as
I
a head
think he's
coach.
the best coach?
He's got coordinator rings too. Remember that he's got two,
Correct.
two coordinator rings
he's
with the
got
Giants.
for the Giants one in the 80s.
Yeah,
Everybody forgets he was a linebacker coach for the New York Giants with Lawrence Taylor. And
I hate to not take a side because you can argue this. You can argue this too, like a couple ways, but I personally take stock in what Andy Reid has done. And I know he didn't win in Philly, but he changed the culture in Philly and he brought them to a Super Bowl only to lose to Belichick. But then he's gone on to beat Belichick a couple times in the AFC in Kansas City. I take stock in coaches that can win in different places and in different
Correct.
levels.
I agree with that.
I don't know. I think the Patriot system that has gone on elsewhere, everyone's tried to recreate the Belichick coaching tree. His coaching tree is miserable. The executives that have come out of that organization have been miserable. The only good thing to leave and win is Tom Brady. Maybe that's because Belichick has been the key. Maybe he can go to another system or another city, implement his system, and win, which I would love to see because he had a little success in Cleveland, but mainly as the Giants
He
coordinator.
had a lot of success in Cleveland.
Yeah.
You know why? Because that team wound up winning the Super Bowl
So
a couple of years later.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, come on.
He's
the
talking about the
Ravens,
Baltimore Ravens
the
right
2000
now. Yeah.
Ravens, they were the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
So I personally would say this. To me, as far as coaches go, I think if you revolutionize the game, guy like Bill Walsh, to me, I always thought he was probably the best coach I ever seen.
Fair.
Really.
There's got.
I mean,
let's do a top 5 or 6 right now because there's names that I
Yeah.
can think of that should be in this conversation. Like I think Mike Shanahan should be in there, and Mike
here's
Shanahan.
The problem with Shanahan, I like him. He's won Super Bowls. I really liked what he was doing in Washington till he got ran out the door. But I like him. I always liked him. I thought Jimmy Johnson.
Jimmy
Jimmy
Johnson.
Johnson to me was.
Jimmy Johnson won in college and in pros. Go ahead.
Hey, he won national championship in college. He's won 3 Super Bowls.
What
the
about
fuck?
Jimmy Johnson?
I'm sorry.
What about Jimmy?
he
Johnson?
just likes Jimmy Johnson.
Like saying,
Come on, dude. I'm
Hold
serious,
on.
and I'm being serious now.
Okay, I get it. But Jimmy Johnson's not the greatest coach in NFL history. That's what
Well,
we're
neither
talking
is Andy
about.
Reid.
Okay, but why then?
What do you mean? Why?
Why do you not think?
I
Andy
like
Reid?
Andy Reid. I think he's a really good coach.
Are you
like
going to
he
Belichick
said.
for the rings? That's
No,
fair.
I'm
Well,
not
I
saying
wanna,
that.
I want to give you some other numbers outside of rings.
All right.
Okay. As far as win percentage of coaches with over 100 regular season wins, Belichick is 5th,
Right.
behind John Madden,
Okay.
George Allen,
Yep.
George Hallis,
Yep.
Shula,
Yep.
and Dungy.
Okay.
Oh, Dungy's got to be in the conversation.
Dungy, I agree. has to be
Dungy
in the
should get
conversation.
credit for that Tampa Super Bowl in 2002. That's basically his Super Bowl. And then you can make the case he gets credit for the Colts going back to the Super Bowl in 12. So that's
Correct.
3 right there.
Correct.
I mean, we could take
Him
we could take
leaving the
Tampa.
Colts,
Yeah.
and that was. I think he's a really good coach.
Yeah.
I do.
100%.
George Allen. I mean, come on, dude. That was when football was.
And George Hallis, too, where they're running
George
the ball every
Hallis.
play.
George Hallis,
Allen.
most of his wins came with the fucking
Come on, dude.
Yeah, in the 40s and
What did they-
50s.
Staley's.
Yeah.
What did they
I'm
have?
good- I'm
Fucking
good on
12
that.
teams back then.
I'm good on
Come
that.
So now,
You said something important. I like to focus on the modern era. So mainly from the Super Bowl on, but really more importantly from the 80s on, like you said, when the game got revolutionized and guys
Correct.
that changed the game. Go ahead. Bring up
so
more
if we
numbers.
go, if we keep this to modern era, because Guy Chamberlain, or I mean,
What the fuck is a guy
that
Chamberlain?
was from the 20. Okay, would you consider Madden the modern era?
Yeah, Madden makes it because he won in the Super Bowl era.
Okay, he had a 7.59 or 0.759 win percentage. That's extremely high. He's second of all time.
And he won in 2 decades, if I'm correct.
Correct.
He
So if we
won
go
Super Bowls in 2 different
69
decades.
to 78.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's important too.
Then, again, George Allen.
Well, no, because Don Flores won the one in the set when they beat Philadelphia.
George
That
Hallis,
wasn't
I
Madden.
feel like
He only won one.
realistically we need to take him out of this conversation.
Yeah, done.
Don Shula, 0.677. And then Dungy, 0.668. And right underneath him is Belichick, 0.662. Now we jump down 2 more spots, and there's Andy Reid.
Okay.
So,
Who's in front of Andy Reid? Just curious.
George Seifert.
You know
San
who George
Francisco
Seifert
49ers.
was? You know George Seifert? He took over for Walsh when Walsh retired.
Okay.
So then if we go by career wins,
And
obviously
he had Jerry Rice and everybody else there. So I'm not even going to.
career wins, Shula is still at the top. He has 328.
Right.
Under him is Hallis with 318. Belichick there with 298 wins. So realistically, if Belichick coached for 3 more years,
He'll pass
he'll
Shula.
most likely pass Shula unless
Correct.
shit.
Now, do
really-
I think Shula was the greatest coach to ever coach? No.
Okay.
He's the most winningest, but he's not the greatest to ever do it.
Tom Landry's up here. 250 wins.
Yeah. Where's
Another
Chuck?
guy who coached
What about
for
Chuck Noll?
30
Where's he on
years.
that
I mean,
list?
come on. Chuck Noll's got 4 Super
He's
Bowls.
8th at 193 wins.
So again, I just getting more modern. Like just because I
Correct.
think of the game more modern, it's a different game now than it was then. I hate comparing in any sport, except for maybe baseball, because that hasn't really evolved much. But in any sport, I hate comparing past guys.
Oh, what the
Baseball.
Sorry.
Like the modern era is significantly more important. And you're gonna hate this, Uncle Sam, but like I think of Pete Carroll. And I think of Jimmy Johnson. And I think of guys that have won everywhere they've been. And Belichick has done that. So has Andy Reid. I think so has Mike Shanahan. I look at successful coaching trees that have come from that. Andy Reid's coaching tree is outstanding. People that have come from Andy Reid's system, they
But you know
tend to fare
where
well.
Andy Reid was coming from, too, though, you know?
Where was it?
Where
Baltimore?
his system, where he evolved from.
It wasn't Baltimore, was it?
No, he evolved in the Bill Walsh.
Yeah, the Bill Walsh.
He was one of the proteges from that era.
Which I take stock in that. And like Mike Holmgren. you
Mike
know?
Holmgren coached for
Took 2 teams, won 1 Super Bowl,
Walsh.
took another team to the Super Bowl. Dick Vermeil won with, if I remember, won with the Rams, brought the Eagles to the Super Bowl in the 70s, right? Or was it the 80s? Regardless.
all these guys that you're mentioning right now. They were all coaches under the tuna.
I think that matters too.
No, you know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about?
Bill Parcells?
Correct.
Oh, who also
They were all
who
coaches
we also
underneath-
just didn't
who
talk
also
about.
won multiple Super Bowls.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we didn't talk about
Yeah.
it. We missed Bill.
Yeah.
And I always thought he was a very good coach.
Yeah.
And he just kind of He had some health issues because he's a big dude. So
Jumping back to what you said about coaching trees, if you base this off of a coaching tree, Andy Reid's coaching tree is
It's good.
It's-
It
it's-
succeeds.
it's better. It's better than
It's better than Belichick's.
it is. I mean, Belichick's. Let's start there. Bill O'Brien, Brian
Meh.
Flores,
Meh.
Saban.
We can count it. Yeah.
Count it. I mean,
It's
You're gonna
everything.
count Saban?
Well, yeah, he
college.
did in college.
I mean, college.
Yeah.
Listen. There's a theory, and if you ask both, there's a great documentary on Saban and Belichick. I don't know if you guys saw
Yeah, I
it.
had seen it.
If you ask Nick Saban, he'll tell you, or anybody in the NFL, they say that if the Drew Brees deal from the Chargers to the Dolphins didn't get nixed, and Saban wasn't saddled with Dante Culpepper, that he would still be in the NFL today, and he would have just as many Super Bowls as Belichick.
I don't believe
That's a
that 'cause
theory.
he quit 6 games in. I
didn't
just
he get
can't-
fired?
I
got
can't.
fired.
He got
Did he get
fired.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but he never had he had teams that put it together, but they never put it all together. And one of the main components was quarterback,
Yeah.
and he never had a quarterback. And Drew Brees that same offseason got traded to the Saints. We all know what the fuck happened after that. So he saw
Well,
something in Drew Brees that no one
he
else
went to the
did.
Saints, and Rivers went to wherever,
Yeah.
San Diego, and Eli went to the Giants, and
Some other notable Belichick coaching tree guys: Al Groh,
No,
okay.
Eric Mangini,
the man genius.
Now Mangini was underneath Parcells.
Josh McDaniels, who I know everybody here is a huge
No.
fan of, Romeo Crennel.
No, he's
Hey,
he's
Romeo
on
Cornell
par.
was not a bad coach.
He's on par. And Andy Reid took over for Romeo Cannell
Correct.
in Kansas City.
Joe Judge,
No,
okay.
and Matt Patricia.
What about
No.
what's his name? Who was the old dude who was coaching Notre Dame there for a while? Charlie Weiss.
Oh yeah,
was a
Charlie
good
Weiss with the
coach.
Patriots, wasn't he?
Very good coach.
Charlie Weiss
yeah.
with the Patriots.
Yeah, but he wasn't a head coach.
He put together
Yeah,
a
he
year.
was.
He was at Notre
Charlie
Dame.
Weiss
He was a head coach.
Notre
at
Dame and then
NFL.
Kansas.
NFL head
And then
coach.
he went to Kansas
NFL head coach.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and can you do Andy Reid's real
Yes,
quick
we'll
before
do
we move
Andy
on?
Reid's.
Ray
Sean
Rhodes.
McDermott,
Ray Rhodes.
Yeah, excellent,
John Harbaugh,
excellent.
Matt Nagy,
Missed on that one.
Doug Peterson,
Excellent,
Ron Rivera,
excellent in my opinion.
Todd Bowles,
Bad,
There you go.
Pat
But-
Shermer,
bad.
yeah.
Leslie Frazier,
Players like him, but I mean, I don't
Yeah,
think he's won
players
much.
like him.
Steve Spagnuolo,
Garbage.
No, good coordinators. One is a coordinator.
and Brad Childress.
No.
Trash.
But there's 3 of the early Andy Reid guys that you named went to Super Bowls as head
Correct.
coaches, and 2 of them won, I think.
Yeah,
Ray Rhodes should have been in that talk too, though.
he's not on this list.
He's not on there. Ray Rhodes was a head coach for Philly.
Whereas none of the, you know, who was missing from Belichick was Vrabel, who I think is actually the best coach. He's the best coach to ever come out of the Belichick system, and of course, a lot
I
of
would
what
say that too.
a lot of what Vrabel did
Well,
came
Vrabel
from
was more
Ohio
of a
State.
player for him,
He
not
was a-
really a
he was more of a
coach.
player. He was on the Patriots
Yeah.
staff, and more of his day. You can make the case that he's more of the Urban Meyer coaching tree.
Yeah.
But Vrabel, you got to, and I think Brian Flores was great. Like he kind of got the raw,
Flores
He got hoes.
gas
he got
jacked.
a raw deal there.
He got
so.
holes from Belichick.
So the former players, if we're going by Vrabel and Flores, those guys, but no one else on Belichick.
Agreed.
Yeah, but I don't know. I'm not gonna enter that debate. You can go either way, in my opinion.
I'm obviously going to give it to Belichick.
If Andy Reid wins one more,
then we have to start talking.
yeah, you got to.
Then we have
You
to
got
start
to,
talking.
because 2 different teams that
Yeah.
matters.
Correct.
That matters.
I agree.
I think that guys, when they come into the league and they take over a team that's a total fucking shit show.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you guys are too young to remember this, but the 49ers in the late 70s were fucking absolute trash.
They were tied for
Bill
most Super
Walsh
Bowls.
came there.
And Bill Walsh won all of
turned
those,
that
not all of
whole
them, but he
franchise.
won most of them, and most of their damage came from the late 80s. Their first Super Bowl was the one that was here, right?
Correct.
Was
At
that
the Silverdome.
82?
82.
82. So
Yep.
that franchise, one of the most storied franchises, all of their damage came between 1982 and 1995.
Correct.
You know, that's
Well,
5 Super Bowls
I
right
mean,
there.
you
They've
had-
gone to 2 since, but
Basically, Walsh was retiring.
Mm-hmm.
He was old. He had some issues. He wanted to retire. They wanted to move away from Montana, and they did. Montana lost his job to injury because he was hurt.
Whatever.
That's when that's when the Giants won the Super Bowl.
ran him out of
They
town.
knocked him. They knocked
they had somebody
Montana
better.
out, and they won that Super Bowl in '85.
They ran him out of town.
whatever. Steve Young's Super Bowl was Joe Montana's
No, it
team.
wasn't. Joe
That's all I'm
Montana
gonna
didn't
say.
play in it.
It was Joe Montana's
Joe Montana didn't play in it.
and he made it to two AFC championship games as a fucking player in Kansas City. There you go.
No
Playing
rank.
for Lamar Hunt.
We're here to talk about rings. We're not here to talk about AFC championships.
Greatest quarterback ever played a game, Joe Montana.
Speaking of conference championships, we're going to talk about a team and a man who hasn't won one in a long time, and that's Jerry Jones. So Netflix actually has reached out to him and wants to make a docu-series about
Jerry
Jones.
10 parts.
And yeah, it's going to be a 10-episode
What
series.
the fuck? 10 series of Jerry Jones? I don't know if I could sit through that.
10 episodes. 10 episodes.
For $50 million.
Oh, wow. And? Is he doing
I'm
it?
having a hard time with
Is
that.
he doing it?
Yes, he's doing it.
Does he really need $50 million?
They outbid
Guy has
Amazon
fucking
and
billions.
they outbid Amazon and ESPN to do the show. It will focus on the Cowboys teams from the '90s when they won Super Bowls, and how
that's
Jerry
some
Jones
stuff to watch there.
how Jerry Jones turned them into America's team.
I'm into
Whoa,
it.
whoa.
Not America's
They were anointed America's team before Jerry Jones owned that team.
Goes back to Roger
That's
Staubach
kind of
playing in
bullshit
the-
right there.
Quote
I
unquote.
call bullshit.
Quote unquote. The docuseries will focus on Jones's Cowboy teams and the Cowboys coming into the true form of America's team.
Listen, I think there's a lot to like about it. If it's more about Jerry Jones's life, it's really intriguing because he played college football at Arkansas. Did his money come from oil? Is that where he? Yeah. So I would like to see that side of it and the buying of the Cowboys. And I'm fairly certain the Cowboys, if they're not
And the
number
running
one,
Tom Landry out of town.
running Tom
like he
Landry out
did.
of town, he ran Jimmy Johnson out of town too, didn't he?
Oh, yeah. He
Ran
ran
them
everybody
all.
out of town. Listen,
And now he doesn't run anyone out of town, and that's the reason the
that's
franchise
the reason
is
why
atrocious.
he's at where he's at today. Because he kept Jason Garrett
Yeah.
for fucking 12 years.
Kept Bill Parcells
and now
too long. Kept
he's-
Jason Garrett too long. He could have had
Yeah.
Sean Payton. Sean Payton was on
who
that
was the
Bill
one that took
Parcells
it
staff.
over after Jimmy Johnson? Barry Switzer.
Barry Switzer, yeah. Barry Switzer. Dave Campo, is he a head coach there?
I think he was there for like a year.
So I think there's a lot to like about the 90s onward.
Well,
they
he
just
had,
haven't done shit since then.
He had fucking the tuna. He had the tuna for
Yeah, the
2
tuna.
years.
There's things to like, and there's intrigue because no matter what, regardless, Forbes has valued that franchise at whatever 7-8 billion. They're one of the most lucrative franchises in all of sports. That's relevant. That
Guess
matters.
What, they're going to follow him around with a little camera? You're going to love that shit.
Well, there's
Make
more
50
about the
million and
past.
follow you around with
It's
the
more
camera.
about the
Go
past.
ahead.
Correct. The show will go beyond the football accolades and showing how Jones became an icon not only in oil, but in and outside the NFL and helped shape the league's present-day culture.
He's got more influence than any other team in the league. And you guys know anything about the NFL's revenue sharing by any chance?
Dallas somehow gets more.
Yes. The Dallas Cowboys are the only team. Well, I don't know if they're the only team anymore, but at the time, and this is still the case, they are the only team in the league that gets 100% of their revenue from TV. So anything that they generate when they're on TV, I'm fairly certain, goes into their pocket. And then merchandise. All of the Dallas
Correct.
Cowboys merchandise goes into their pocket. It's not shared with the other 31 teams. They get to pocket it.
So, the Cowboys, according to Forbes, and this list is from December of 2022, out of all professional sports teams worldwide, the Cowboys are number one with an $8.9 billion valuation.
And it's been like that for over a decade, more. And on top
Probably
of that,
more.
it's doubled over the last decade because of whatever we want to say about Roger Goodell. He's a cunt. That's what I'm going to say about him. But whatever we want to say about Roger Goodell, the revenue in the NFL has increased exponentially, which is why he's going to keep his job. But Jerry Jones is one of the main reasons for that. He's on the competition committee. He's on the senior executive committee. He's like one of 8 guys. So the influence
I would say
he
if
has,
there's any guy that Roger Goodell hates, it's Jerry Jones.
Well, 'cause
Jerry Jones always calls him out for being
because
a
he could
native.
rival him for certain things. Like Robert Kraft couldn't take down the NFL machine during Deflategate and during all the issues that Spygate, whatever. If Jerry Jones wanted to turn the influence on Goodell, he could do that. That's the influence that he's had that he has in the NFL. He has more influence over all of the owners than any other owner. It's him, Clark Hunt's up there, like the guys with the storied franchises, of course.
Well, see, the old regime outside him and Kraft, there's only a handful of those guys left. The rest of them are all the kids are
The
running
old
it.
guard.
The Yorks are running San Francisco. All them other guys are gone. All these other owners are gone. They're dying
It's
off.
him and Kraft. When you think about the
Him
really
and Kraft
old
are the
school
only
guys,
two old
Him, Kraft,
regime.
Mara with the
Yeah,
Giants.
yeah.
John Mara's still there. The
Yeah, but I
Rooney's
don't know
had
if
the
he's
influence.
running it anymore. That's the difference.
Well, Steve Tisch, the co-owner of
Correct.
the team, also does a lot of damage for the Giants. There's still some long tenured
I
owners.
mean, when
They're
Al
starting to
Davis
die.
died,
Yeah.
when Al Davis died,
You don't hear from
he
Mark
was a
Davis
fucking
ever.
icon.
You don't hear from Mark Davis ever, other when he's putting his ugly mug on the TV.
no, but Al Davis was an icon. Everybody in the fucking league listened to him.
Yeah.
He was an icon.
There's few owners. I mean, there used to be more, but there's few owners with the influence that Jerry Jones has.
Lamar Hunt.
And he could
Lamar
turn,
Hunt had
Lamar
big
Hunt,
pull.
George Halas when he was alive. Like those guys, they have trophies named after them. That being said, there's no one presently that has the influence that Jerry Jones has. And when you speak of owners in sports, like when we're talking all of United States professional sports, I think of Jerry Jones. I think of George Steinbrenner. I think of Mark Cuban. Like there's a handful. There's 5 guys that you could think of. Like I know who that owner is. I know
Correct.
they're out there. Jerry Buss with the lake. Like there's not many people that you think of, and Jerry Jones is at the top.
like you said, if we use just the Forbes list for these owners, Jerry Jones has the number 1 team. Robert Kraft has the number 2 team. Kroenke has the number 3 team. Steinbrenners are at 4, and John Mayer and Steve Tisch are at 5. All names that we said.
Correct.
Those are the most important and most valuable teams and owners hand in hand. I mean,
I agree.
the Bears surprisingly are the 6th most valuable franchise in all of sports.
You know why? They're the oldest. Them and the Packers are the oldest.
Yet they got to publicly finance a stadium to stay in Chicago, which is a joke.
It is. It
That
is a
one
joke.
really
She fired her son.
That's what they did here.
She fired her. What's his name? What's First things first. What's her name? I can't remember
Virginia
it right now.
McCaskey.
Okay, so Ed McCaskey, her son, she had to fire him a couple years ago and pass it along to one of her other sons, if I remember correctly, because she didn't like. I mean, I think Ed McCaskey was on the team he was in control of the team that went to the Super Bowl in 2006, if I remember correctly, or 2007, whenever that was. But that's a dumb.
They got embarrassed by the Colts.
It reminds me of here. You know, you just don't, when you do, even if you're long tenured and good ownership, if you're not hands on in this day and age, and you got to find that balance of perfectly hands on and also you need to let the people that run the team. If you don't find that balance, you're not going to win today. There's very few influences in sport. Jerry Jones hasn't won in 20 plus years. 1996 was a long time ago. We're talking about almost 30 years ago, and that's the last time he won anything meaningful, let alone they got their first playoff win in X amount of years this year.
He couldn't keep his ego out of it.
Couldn't keep
the
his ego
people
out of
that
it.
were
He runs
running the team were doing well.
He's the general manager of the team, and I think there's a direct correlation with wrong hires and keeping people too long and personnel decisions. That goes back to him, and he's the reason they haven't won recently, whereas he was probably the reason they did all the winning in the 90s, you know?
Well, they did all the winning in the 90s because
they had Aikman, Smith, and Irvin.
He had the man there. He had the man putting that together.
Yeah.
Jimmy Johnson.
All right. So, do we like the idea of the Netflix docuseries about?
Yeah.
I want to check it. I'm curious. I would check it out.
I'm 100% watching it.
I would watch
That's
it.
that's Last
Absolutely.
Dance quality.
Yes, actually, that's what they compared it to.
Done.
Listen to me.
I'm in.
Nothing is going to be better than watching Jimmy say, "How about them Cowboys?" That's it. That was Jimmy.
Staying in the television world or media world a little bit. J.J. Watt's joining CBS Sports for next season. I think he's going to be in the booth color commentary situation.
Yeah.
That to me is interesting because I've always liked him. I like hearing him talk. He reminds me of who's the tight end from the Panthers?
Greg
That's really
Olsen.
good.
Greg Olsen.
Greg Olsen.
Greg Olson's really
Love
good.
Greg Olsen.
I think J.J. Watt will be as good as he is easily.
I'm sorry, he's going to be a studio analyst.
Oh, he
He's
is.
going to be a studio. Which
I
they have
would
a good
rather
panel.
see him doing the game.
They have a good panel. I would rather see him do the games too.
Yeah.
And this is on this similar play like this is where I got injured in 2014.
Right.
Oh, that play right there, I got injured on that play in 2018. That's the
Yeah.
exact play I tore my
Yeah.
ACL
I blew
on.
my back out the same way. Yeah.
5 times.
Yeah, 5 times. I had fucking 8 knee surgeries, 5 on one, 4 on 3 on the other. Yeah.
I'll be honest. As many guys that they can take out of the game and put in there and start to eliminate some of like
Tony Romo.
I don't-
Eliminate the fucking trash they got in there right
don't
now.
Mind.
Fuck
I don't
Tony
hate
Romo.
Tony
Tony
Romo.
Romo's
Would you
awful.
take Tony Romo or Joe Buck?
I hate Joe Buck. Don't
Who
ever
would you
say
take?
Joe. Joe
Who
Buck
would you
needs to
take?
go back to baseball
Who
and
would
fucking stay
you
there.
take?
I would take Romo over Joe
Thank
Buck.
you.
Was
That's the kind of guys they need to start to weed out.
Watt, the guy that did someone mention that he died and then they brought him back to life for some shit?
What?
He they said he died for like 30 seconds or something, and they shocked him back.
He had a heart murmur. He didn't
Heart
die.
murmur? Oh,
Jesus.
The CBS crew is it's decent too. I mean, Nate Burleson's on there, who we love.
I don't mind him.
I've always loved his rants that he would go on before Lions games.
I
in the
like Nate
huddle.
Burleson for, you know what? He keeps it real, and I like that. I like that he does that.
Bill Cowher's on there. His takes are a little too conservative to me. When he's giving like football takes, like he's the type that says Matthew Stafford's not a winner because he wears his hat backwards. Do you believe in that narrative? Do you think Stafford was bad because he wears his hat backwards, or because
Listen,
he was stupid?
I think that's an absolute stupid comment.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. I don't. Listen, Bill Cowher was a pretty decent coach, and guys listened to him. Some did. But, you know, I think Tomlinson is every bit of a better coach than he is.
Mike Tomlin's, in my opinion, like the top 1 or 2, maybe 3
Yeah.
coaches. Then
I would
we
say
had this conversation.
I would say he's as good as Cowher, if
Yeah.
not better.
He's Cowher, but the players like him.
Correct.
I don't know if this sets CBS over. It's intriguing. We don't get a lot of I mean, of course, we get CBS NFL Sunday, but the Lions typically aren't on CBS, so
Correct.
I'm not watching a lot of CBS. I still think the Fox guys are the best. I think Fox has the best panel. I think it's the best done from Menifee to Michael Strahan's been so good for years. And sometimes Terry Bradshaw could be a little takey and annoying and remind
He's
me of
fucking annoying.
Lee Corso.
He
But
needs to go away.
he's good,
The
though.
only reason why he's on there because he won 4 Super Bowls. They can't do anything else with him. He's a fucking idiot.
and it'll be interesting.
Howie Long, I love Howie Long.
Howie
Always
Long's
liked Howie
great.
Long. Says it how it is.
He
More
doesn't
guys
have bad
need to
takes.
emulate him.
He doesn't have bad takes, Howie
No.
Long.
It'll be interesting to see if they still end up rolling Brady into that somehow.
Who's Brady's deal with? It was
Hey.
Fox.
It was
Yeah.
with Fox.
Would have been
Yeah,
outstanding.
what the fuck? He turned all that money down
Yeah.
and he's doing nothing? I don't buy that shit.
Well, he was at Michael Rubin's white party over the weekend.
His what?
He was at the Michael Rubin's
Shout out to
white
Devin
party over
Booker.
the weekend.
Who's
Shout out to
Michael
Devin. We know you
Rubin?
want to come home, Devin Booker. We'll get you eventually.
Michael Rubin is the one who owns the 76ers, and he was the founder of Fanatics and has more money than God.
He has a party in the Hamptons every year, a white party, and he invites just
Okay.
every celebrity athlete. that you
Odell
can
was
think of.
there.
So it wasn't an
Michael
all-white
Parsons
party
was
then.
There.
What's up? Oh wow!
Kim Kardashian was there.
Certainly.
Like I said, it wasn't a white party. Okay, I get it.
Moving on. ESPN fired like everybody over the weekend. I don't know if you saw that.
I did. I seen the list
Yeah.
of guys that got the axe. I was kind of surprised on that because a couple of them have been around a long time. Todd
Boy,
McShay.
Todd McShay. You love
Todd McShay been around a long time.
That was a weird one because
Because
these
he's a
people
real
gotta be
sports
blindsided.
writer. I don't get that.
They just utilized Todd McShay a month and a half ago for the draft. They've been doing it for years, and this isn't an ESPN problem. It's a Disney problem. Disney's cutting like a third of their workforce and cutting back. But there's guys I'm surprised. Like I'm one of the biggest Michigan fans. You know, I think Desmond Howard is atrocious on college game day, and they cut David Pollock in favor
Listen to me,
of
nobody was
all these
worse
people.
than Lee Corso.
Oh,
man.
Corso's
Come
bad.
on.
Corso's
My
bad.
God, he was such a knucklehead.
The gist is enough people were
I
fired.
love Kirk Herbstreit. I will say
he's,
that.
He's one of the
I'm
best
big
people at
Herb-
ESPN, and by far their
Love
best college
what he
analyst.
does.
And he's great on games too. Herb Street's outstanding on
Young.
games.
Not a fan of his. I don't think he really brings anything to it.
The gist is enough people were fired over the last couple years, but let alone this past week, enough people were fired that they could form their own network. They can go do their own thing.
Yeah, they could.
Because enough people were let
Lucy
go.
Culver surprised me.
She was
She's
there
been
for a long
around
time.
Forever.
She was on every Monday Night Football
Yeah.
telecast.
There was one person who got fired from ESPN this week who I was very happy to see.
Who's that?
Max Kellerman.
Max Kellerman, you're
Max Kellerman was the
I-
biggest fucking disgrace of
Max
sports
Kellerman.
television.
I will say this: Max Kellerman needs to stick to boxing and stay there, and don't ever get out of your fucking realm again.
The best is that as soon as he got fired, that video from 2015 when he said that Tom Brady needed to retire because he was done, started to recirculate.
Well, I thought he was right anyway, but I just
Those
think he
shows are
should
all
stick to
takes.
boxing and stay there.
Those shows are all takes. Anything Max Kellerman did. I mean, Stephen A. is the exception of the rule, just because I like
Stephen
how
A.
animated-
Smith?
I just like how animated he gets.
He is a fucking idiot. I can't stand him.
Listen,
he
I'm not-
always
all of
spouts
those guys
off,
are. They're
he's
all
the Joe
idiots.
Biden of
They're all
fucking
idiots.
basketball.
Skip Bayless. They're all
He's another
idiots.
one.
Bayless
He's
stuff.
another one that needs to go
guys
the
are
fuck
just
away.
they're just clickbait. They're just shock value talk. Like they don't really bring a lot to the table. It's just all takes. They're just
No,
giving you
it's all
takes.
bullshit.
And they're gonna be hot takes 95% of the time.
All they
And
say is shit to be controversial, so somebody will argue with them. They're
That's what
fucking
it is.
idiots. But I can't stand Stephen A. Smith, and I can't stand that motherfucker. I don't like either one of them. I can't stand them.
I was surprised to see Hasselbeck get let go because I actually
Not really,
enjoyed
because
him.
he's got no personality.
I'll be honest.
Nobody wants.
I
to
like-
see him.
I didn't know he was still there.
Nobody wants to see him.
I didn't know he was still
Keyshawn
at
Johnson's
ESPN.
better than he is.
Didn't know
Keyshawn
Keyshawn Johnson was still on ESPN.
I don't
Yeah.
watch ESPN enough to
I
know.
don't watch
That's-
ESPN either,
Yeah.
and that's probably why. Is because they got a bunch of dumbasses on there.
Okay.
No,
Well,
You're not wrong.
I
you're
mean,
not wrong.
I don't want to see any of them people on there.
The whole
It's
thing
just
is,
you know what? Stay
hey,
in your fucking lane.
this is
if you're
all. Listen, they pay. You know, Pat McAfee is going to ESPN. He's
I did
taking
not
the
know
whole
that.
show and going there. They paid him.
his show is more popular than ESPN. Why
Well,
would he
that's
do
the
that?
Thing. Because they're going to pay him 8 figures.
Okay, I
So
get
he
it.
went there, and
Maybe
I
we
feel like
should-
ESPN,
maybe we should go to ESPN.
ESPN's starting to get ahead of the trend of nobody actually watches TV anymore. So just
Correct.
buy up whoever you can that people actually still watch. Because realistically, what are you more likely to tune into? The Pat McAfee show or whatever the morning show is at ESPN?
Yeah, nobody wants to see that.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If they don't take, I'm sorry, excuse me, if they put training wheels on Pat McAfee and they don't let it continue how it
Correct.
currently goes,
It will bomb.
which
It'll bomb.
supposedly they're gonna let him go. They're gonna let him pop off. If they
It's
let
cable.
that show go how it does,
Yeah.
you could just bleep it. You could still bleep
Yeah,
stuff.
beep
It's
it
all about
out.
Disney.
What the
You're
fuck?
forgetting that.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of
Whatever, dude.
You know, very.
So what? He's gonna come on there with AJ Hawk. AJ Hawk gonna smoke a couple joints. Come on there and say like an idiot. I mean, it
McAfee's-
is what it is.
McAfee's-
he's Bruce with long hair.
I think he's unstoppable. I think he's Midas. Everything he's done, he's excelled at. He's wrestled for WWE as well as done commentary for WWE.
I
He's
remember him.
excellent.
I remember him doing some of the shows in the morning.
Yeah.
He used to be on the NFL show.
He used to come on the NFL
Years
shows.
ago.
He's excellent. Everywhere he goes, his current show is excellent. When he was at Barstool, his podcast at Barstool was really good. He's excellent on College Game Day. He's incentivized me to start watching College Game Day again because that got really heavy and Southern takey. And I'm excited
I
to watch.
used to love watching College Game Day. I like I said, Lee Corso was a knucklehead. You know what I'm saying? But he brought a little fun with it, and Herb Street would always pull him in, reel him in, and keep him under control. So if you don't have that, listen, they need to stop. When you know college football, and you played college football, and people know who you are, that's good. I don't want to see Max Kellerman talk about basketball. I don't want to see Max Kellerman talk about football or anything else. The only thing he's ever done is he knows boxing, and I will say this because he's been around boxing for quite a long time. I remember when he came into the scene. He should stay there and stay there. Joe Buck needs to go back to fucking baseball, stay in fucking baseball. Nobody likes you. Nobody wants to hear you fucking talk. Nobody. You're fucking awful.
It took me a long time on Joe Buck, but I've warmed up to him a lot.
I just can't. I can't do it with him. To me, watching him is like rubbing your nails across the fucking chalkboard. I can't stand it.
Say what you really wanted to say.
No, the same thing with Tony Romo. Every time he talks, I want to punch myself
The
in the
cowboy
face.
bias. Anyways, Romo would have played for a different organization.
Listen to me, Pat Summerall, RIP, one of the greatest announcers of all time.
Keith Jackson.
John Madden.
Keith Jackson.
Is fucked up as he was with the boom bam and everything else. Entertaining to watch. Never had a
Emerald
problem
football.
with the Keith Jackson doing college football. There was nobody better than Keith Jackson at college football. Nobody
Every
better.
big game, he was the voice of the big games. Every big game, he was there. You didn't have to
Every
guess.
big game, he was the voice.
Real quick, I know we have to move on because we're crazy on time, but what do we think of Gus Johnson?
Okay. Hot take. I don't mind Gus Johnson whatsoever.
I like Gus
actually
Johnson.
really
I like
enjoy
him.
him.
He's also a very recently acquired taste. But
Yes.
I fucking love.
I
mainly
love him
because
too.
my team, like when Michigan's on, they tend to win now
Yes.
when he plays. I would love, and he does some pro games. Gus
That's
Johnson
right.
gets
I
some
like
pro games
him when
too.
he does pro games.
I love Gus Johnson. I think he's good. Like I'd look forward to it. He's from here. I think he's from Southfield.
Yep.
I look
Yeah.
forward to hearing him.
Agree.
You know what else I like is might sound kind of Dan Miller.
Dan
I
Miller's
like
great.
Dan Miller when he calls Lions games.
Yeah.
I like him.
Dan Miller's great.
Fucking man.
All right.
I like him.
Man.
We're going to
Yeah.
move on.
The greatest of all time, the greatest commentary guy
Max
of all
Kellerman?
time, Jim Lampley,
Jim Lampley.
who's done boxing and the Olympics and everything else. There was nobody with the repertoire of the encyclopedia like him. Nobody.
Besides you.
Cross
Nobody.
repertoire off your
Besides
tip balls
nobody.
bingo.
Yeah. Never thought we'd get that in there.
What?
All right. We're moving on.
Okay.
ESPN. Shockingly enough, we're going to stay on the ESPN topic. They came out with a list end of last week ranking all 32 NFL rosters from worst to first.
Okay.
Couple of questions before we get into this. One, who do you both think came? Well, you already saw the list. Who do
I'll give you who I would have guessed. I'll give you who I would have guessed.
Who would you have guessed was going to be number one before you saw the list?
The team that was number one or last?
Number one.
Number one, I'd have guessed to be the Philadelphia Eagles.
Who would you guess would be number
Eagles.
one? Okay. Who would you guess was going to be number 32?
Now see, this one's kind of hard. I would have to say Tampa.
Who would you have guessed was going to be number 32?
The Texans.
Okay.
I don't think so. Not after the
We're
draft.
just guessing. We're just making
Yeah.
guesses.
Okay.
Where would you say the Detroit Lions would have came in?
Probably 20.
I'd probably put them in the top 12.
Okay. Where should we start? I feel like we should start at the bottom.
All right, start at the
And we're
bottom.
gonna wait.
Start at the bottom.
Yeah, we always start at the bottom. And we're not going to go through, I don't want to break down everything here, but just a quick agree or disagree, and we're going to move on. And we'll focus on some of the more important ones. Number 32, the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah. I mean, they're in the argument. for
I
that
think it's
bottom
between
pick.
them and Tampa.
Well,
I
okay.
mean,
And if they move on from Budda Baker, if Budda Baker somehow moves, I mean, realistically, is there anybody worth any value left on that team besides him?
I mean, I'll listen to arguments on Kyler Murray, but right now, no.
Yeah.
There's nothing
Okay.
redeeming.
I can't disagree with you there. 31,
Tampa.
the Los Angeles Rams.
Wow.
I'm pretty low on the Rams. You guys know that.
I am too. But
I
I
don't-
am
this-
too.
this
I
is
mean,
very
I've
low.
seen their.
this is low.
You still have Stafford. You still have Cup. There's still some
Donald.
things. There's still some Aaron Donald, arguably the best
Donald.
defensive
Yeah.
player in the league. There's still some things to like about this team. And I mean,
Cam Akers came into his own at the end of the year last year.
If I think about this is the only reason I can rationalize this. Outside
They
of
lost too much.
Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp, and Matt Stafford,
Yeah, they lost
there's
a lot.
not really much else there. And the Rams' depth issues have
It will be
reared
big
their
time
head
this
in.
year. You're going to see a lot of new faces on that team this year.
So I guess I mean, notables on here are Van Jefferson and Tutu Atwell.
And neither one of them are worth
what's
the fuck.
Tutu
There are
Atwell?
three at
Tutu
best.
Atwell.
There are three at best.
I mean, there's really not much there outside of those three guys. But
They lost their whole defense.
When
just
you've-
about.
even so, I can't really argue this, but I don't think their record will
Yeah.
be bottom two.
No, I don't.
Let's just say
no,
that.
because Stafford will gut out a few wins there. They're not. Listen, they're going to be in contention for that division. I wouldn't
You're on,
count
bro.
them out. Huh?
30. 30. The Indianapolis Colts.
I'm glancing up at the list, and there's rosters that I like way less than the Colts, so I kind of disagree with this one.
I do too. I don't think that they're 30. I think Tampa would be down there before they would be. And I get it. Tampa's missing a quarterback. They don't have a running back. They don't have a quarterback. They got 2 aging receivers. Their offensive line is fucking putrid.
Okay, we're not talking about Tampa.
I'm just saying.
We're talking about Indianapolis.
I think Tampa's worse than Indy.
No.
Okay, give why.
The Colts
just told you
offense.
why.
The Colts
Yes, but
offense looks very serviceable. in
I
my
agree
opinion.
with their offense looks very serviceable.
And even their defense, like, not as serviceable. They have some pieces. They have pieces they could work with. DeForest Buckner, Kwity Paye, who hasn't really played a full season yet. Tyquan Lewis is really good off the edge. Shaq
Leonard's
Leonard.
still there, yeah.
Shaq Leonard. There's
whoever
things
Yeah,
to
filled
like.
in for
if he
him-
doesn't have another fucking
Well,
concussion.
whoever filled in for him when he was hurt last year
Yeah, he
did
was a
just as
monster.
good of a job. His name's escaping me at the moment, but he was a monster too. I think this is low for Indianapolis. I do.
I do too. I do.
Again, at this point, I don't like. Here we go. 29 is Houston. Realistically, I think Indianapolis's roster is set up a little bit better than Houston's.
I agree. This is coming along, but I agree.
Houston's draft, I think they're going by what Houston's draft was. And I think because they got 2 top-tier players that they're saying that they're better off than the Colts are, obviously.
We'll file the Colts and Texans under very good pieces to work with, not enough to compete yet.
Yeah,
Right.
not enough ass. Correct. 28. This one shocked me because if I had to guess who was going to be 32 to start off, I should have said who mine were. I thought this team would be 32. And that's the Tennessee Titans.
I agree with you. This is a bottom 3 team.
This is
I
I
agree
don't
with
think there's
that.
anybody worse than this.
The pieces that they have that are good are aging.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
agree.
my God, it's real. I mean, can you tell me who plays for them? There's not, I mean, here we go. Amani Hooker's their big, and Kevin Byard.
Well, Bayard's been dominant for the past 5 years.
They don't have
there.
they don't have a quarterback. Derrick Henry is great. You have nobody at wide receiver outside of
Beard
Burks.
and Bayard and Henry. It's hard to say who's even.
Jeffrey Simmons still.
I
there.
mean,
Harold Landry. Again,
Simmons
they're
is
all
good.
old. Everybody who was good on that team is aging
aging.
quickly.
Yes.
You've got a couple young guys in your secondary who work. You don't have a receiver. You don't have the quarterback situation figured out. Their offensive line was part of the reasons why Derrick Henry got hurt last year.
Oh, by the way, their backup running back is facing assault charges for strangling his girlfriend,
Oh, yeah, that was a
Hassan
bad one.
Haskins.
That
There
was
we
a
go.
bad one.
Yeah,
All right, now you can go on your rant. At 27 is Tampa Bay.
I think that's high for them. I really do. Outside of Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, you tell me what's good on that team. Outside those 2 players, and maybe a handful of defensive guys.
I'm going to take the bait here. I disagree too.
Shaq Barrett.
I think this is low.
There's good young pieces on this team.
There's a lot of good.
On
Their
Tampa?
offense is kind of aging, but even still, they're a quarterback away from that division so shitty, and they're
Right.
a year, 2 years removed from a Super Bowl, and 1 year removed from the playoffs. If they had a better quarterback, this team competes in that division. But on defense, they have a lot of young pieces that I love.
Jesus.
Antoine Winfield, Vita V, Kalisha Cansey coming in, Shaq Barrett. Obviously, Levante David's old, but
Devin
he's still
White.
serviceable. Devin White's young and good. Their
Davis
offense
is
is
deep.
aging.
They all wanted out. They all
Davis-
wanted to
A
bail.
lot of you know what? A lot of those guys asked to get
Yeah.
out. They did.
Yeah.
I'll give that to you. I think there's teams that are in front of the Bucks that they're better than them.
100%.
Still bottom third.
Listen, when Todd Bowles is your coach, you might as well put a fucking pistol in your mouth.
Might be
Okay.
the case.
Their offensive line is still, in my opinion,
They're
top-
still bad.
top. No, everybody was hurt last year. You're forgetting.
Listen,
Benson was
they're
hurt.
bad.
Wirfs was hurt. They were all fucking hurt.
Let's see if they come back.
They were all hurt. I don't mind. I think receiving core.
They have no depth. They have no depth at offensive line. That's why they got ass pummeled last
They
year.
drafted offensive linemen.
Okay.
So hopefully it's there.
They
But
got
I-
Cansey. He should be the big disruptor
Their-
they need.
Their defense, in my opinion, realistically, if everybody stays hurt, they could have a top 10 defense.
And it could be good for a couple of years too.
And it could be good for years to come.
That's why they won the Super Bowl.
Anyways, 26 is Atlanta. See, in my opinion,
The Bucks are better than Atlanta.
on paper,
Yeah.
I don't think the record will reflect it.
I agree.
Our
On
roster is
paper,
better than Atlanta.
I think Tampa's
Absolutely.
roster is better. Because there's not all that much here. They did sign Heineke. So if Ritter poops his pants, they can toss Heineke out there.
I will say that when did they sign Heineke? Just now?
I'm not sure.
Just recently?
He's there.
I will say this: if it's between him and Ritter, I bet you Heineke's starting at the beginning of the year.
We're all in agreement that if Ritter shows up this year, that this team has a chance to win that division.
1,000%.
I don't think that's going to happen.
I like Heineke.
And I think their defense is serviceable but weak. But there's pieces all over the offense that are outstanding. And from the offensive line to the running backs to the wide receivers, I think there's a lot to like. I'm going to put this in that Texans class and in that class with the who else is in that class? The serviceable but not ready to compete yet.
Could be.
Texans and Colts.
Yeah. One step above them, Carolina at 25.
Yeah, I could see that.
I feel like these two teams are right next to each other. But honestly, if I look at it and you look at Atlanta's pieces, Atlanta has better pieces, in my opinion, than Carolina. I mean, wide receiver, I kind of got to. I mean, they have Drake London, Matt Collins.
I'm going wide receiver. I'm going with the Panthers. I
am
like
too.
Chark and Thielen. Obviously, quarterback. I'm going Bryce Young. I think offensive line. I'm probably giving the edge to the Falcons. Obviously, running back. So you're split there. It's split both ways. These teams, same drill.
I think Carolina's defense is better than Atlanta's.
Because the edge for me goes to Bryce Young. Bryce Young is the X factor and all this. That's the reason I give the edge to the Panthers because they have a quarterback.
You know what? All year last year, I bitched about you with Carolina's defense because you were so high on them. But realistically, I think Carolina's defense could be. I know I've been really big on the Saints. Yeah. Carolina's defense could be the reason why they win the division. Moving on to 24. This one was really surprising to me. It's the Commanders.
Yeah, so this one's down a little more down there for me.
This has got to be push and bottom.
This is in that not ready to compete yet, but also like they're not trending in the right direction and they're not ready to compete yet. But I love their running backs, love their receivers.
I love what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
I don't mind what Rivera's trying to do there. I get it. But I just don't think I love the running back situation. The receiver situation is very good.
They have spots that are really good and spots that are really bad.
Yeah. Sam Howell ain't it. Their secondary's doo-doo, in my opinion.
Yeah. Secondary's pretty awful.
But then they might make up for it in the front seven.
Yeah, their front seven is
mainly
one of the better fronts
line.
in football.
In the trenches, they're good.
23 is Green Bay.
So some of these teams that are down here are also like the Rams, for example. Like people have the Rams in the playoffs and the Packers potentially in the playoffs.
Correct.
So how could you put them at 23 and then have them missing the playoffs? I don't know. That's weird.
I guess the way you've got to look at this, I guess, is
if Stanford comes back and is in shape, they're a playoff team.
I don't want to hear that.
They're a playoff team.
Biggest load of shit
I think they're a playoff team.
You need to clip this because at the end of the year when the Rams win 5 games,
Stafford is healthy,
we'll revisit.
If Stafford is healthy, they're a playoff team.
They could be.
That's
a tough division. That's a tough division.
They play in a very tough division.
Seattle's better than them, and San Francisco is a lot better than them. Am I wrong?
On the Packers, though, real quick, there's same drill. X Factor's the quarterback. I'm on the side of erring to believe that Jordan.
Do you
Love's
think the Packers have a better team than
the Seahawks
Rams?
or the Rams? I do, all top to bottom, because the
Seahawks.
This roster minus Aaron Rodgers won 9 games last year.
Yeah.
And on top of that, 2 years ago it went to the playoffs. I think it might have even went to the championship game 2 years ago, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And it's done like it's seen some stuff. Like they're gonna have a top 10 or 12 defense. And they have more pieces on offense. Less Aaron Rodgers.
They're rebuilding their offensive line, who was really aging bad.
Can I be honest?
I don't hate the Packers.
If I look at their defense from top to bottom, this team has a top 5 defense potential.
They could, yeah. They have someone at every position that's going to do damage.
They have a playmaker at every position on defense. They really do. And if Jordan Love can I don't know how much I believe in Jordan Love's ability. And I don't think he's going to take the world by storm. But I'm starting to see the light when you add that receiving core in with Jordan Love. Even if Jordan Love isn't otherworldly fantastic, if those guys can all be on the field together and click and understand their roles, you could have something here.
Well, I think if they don't, you'll see Matt LaFleur take a bow and he'll be gone.
This is where for me this all starts to go south.
Yeah.
At 22, one spot above the Packers is the Bears.
Yeah, instantly the Bears are not better.
How
the Bears,
are they better than?
I'm looking at this right now, and I know I'm biased, and I know that I'm fucked if the Bears are good this year. But I mean,
Running back,
I don't.
advantage Packers.
Yeah, for sure.
Receiver, advantage Packers. Tight end.
They got the rookie, Packers. They got
Packers.
2 rookies.
Offensive line, I mean,
it's the Packers.
It's the Packers.
They didn't do enough for this offensive line. The defense.
Defensively,
there's no
across the
playmakers
board.
on this defense.
No. Tremaine
None.
Edmonds, maybe.
So I know you guys are high on Fields. I'm going to say indifferent because I like watching him play. I just don't think he's going to be a great NFL quarterback. I think this is a bottom 3 or 4 roster in the league. I think they're going to be sitting right back where they were, potentially pick 1 or 2 next year. I know I'm in the strong minority. I know I'm going to eat my words. There's a chance. But I just don't see what everyone else is seeing with the Chicago Bears.
That division still goes through Lambeau until fucking otherwise.
Okay,
no, the division comes through Ford Field.
So metaphorically,
it's still going through Lambeau, whether we like it or not. If they shit to bed this year, it's still going through Lambeau until otherwise.
Which we haven't said the Minnesota Vikings name yet, so that means they're somewhere
Minnesota
higher up on this list.
Is.
I'm just
I
saying
can't
we're going to
believe they're
disagree
that
with
high.
that. I'm saying we're going to disagree with that.
21, Las Vegas. I think this is a good spot for them. That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah, they're missing some things. 21 says you're missing some things. You're the leader of that bottom third, and you're fringe competing for a playoff spot.
I mean,
it's quarterback.
Arguably one of the
Quarterback's
best
big
running
one.
backs in the league.
you have Josh Jacobs.
You got the best
Devontae
defensive
Adams.
end in the
You
league,
have Max Crosby.
and you got a top receiver in the league.
Their secondary needs some work.
Yes, agree.
I think their linebackers need some work probably, but their offense is a quarterback away from being a top 10 offense.
1,000%.
And their D front, like again, front 4 excellent. Crosby, Chandler Jones, and then they drafted Tyree Wilson.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's got a potential. Wilson and Max Crosby have a chance to make some noise for
If
a
Wilson
decade.
plays,
If Wilson plays, he'll play, but you get the
it
gist.
won't be till later.
20 is too high. You can argue with me all you want. It's New England. And it's just not, they're not there.
No,
they are not there.
I like their defense. I like their
I would
defense.
take the Raiders over them. I would take the Packers over them.
And their O line seems to be serviceable. It's not a Patriots-esque O line. I don't think they have any playmakers on offense. And
At the receiver position, outside Stevenson, they don't have any playmakers.
yeah, I'm all
I
good
heard
there.
Delvin Cook. They're real.
This is in that
High
bottom
on him,
third and
yeah.
trending in the wrong direction.
1,000% agree. 19, the New Orleans Saints.
This is a good spot for them
This
too.
is a great spot for them. Honestly, I think even you could bump it up a spot or two because the team in front of them, I'm not 1,000%, maybe a spot. You just have a lot of question marks here. And if it all works, it looks good. Kamara's a question mark. Jamal Williams' role is a question mark for me. Michael Thomas, for me, is still a question mark. Like, Derek Carr in that system, not as big of a question mark, but a question mark. Their defense is still, I think, going to pick up right where it left off last year. If Carr can get the offense rolling, like I said, I think they're going to win the division.
It comes down to the quarterback there. That entire division comes down to
Quarterbacks, yeah.
There's no microscope on quarterbacks more than the NFC South.
Whichever one figures it out could win the division.
Watch Baker Mayfield come running.
18, the New York Giants. Again, I know this team was better than expectations last year. I think they are still going to be good this year, but as far as an on-paper roster goes, I think it's a little high.
They have a shit ton of young talent there.
One of the places I think they're weak is wide receiver.
Oh,
I think they're pretty weak there. But other than that, I think they could actually be higher. You can make the case they could be higher than a few teams that are in front of them, AFC teams, because I don't think they're higher than any of the NFC teams that are in front of them. They're higher than the Vikings. They're higher than the Minnesota Vikings. But other than that, they're just missing some receivers. That's my only knock on the Giants offense. Love their coach, love what they're doing. Don't think they're ready yet to make noise, because obviously
I
they
like
just made
Brian
the playoffs.
Dable.
Yeah, I love Brian Dable.
You look like him.
Fuck you.
Jumping up to 17, the Detroit Lions.
So this
That's
would
about
put
right.
them. This would put them as a bottom half of the league offense. They're the leaders of the bottom half, and this is a little bit of a spoiler on the rest of the list. But that has them 6th in the NFC, so they might be 17th, but 6th in the NFC puts them in the playoffs.
Correct.
I think this is. Here's the thing. Like, I look at a team like the Giants underneath them. I think you have a bigger gap between. I think the Lions roster for roster are more talented than the Giants by a lot.
Here's the thing: the Lions played so many young guys last year. Nobody knows who they are. So you really haven't got a real good gauge on these
The
guys.
rebuilt secondary is a big one for me.
That's what I was going to say. Secondary wise, give me the Lions over them.
Yeah, the secondary's huge.
Linebacking core,
Also, should take a step forward.
honestly, give me the Lions.
It's been a hole in the team for years, and it played better in the second half of the season.
Defensively, I will give them interior defense to the Giants. That's it defensively. Mm-hmm. Offensively, I'm sorry, give me Goff over Daniel Jones. Running backs, obviously, it's Saquon Barkley, but I don't have an issue with Gibbs and Montgomery. Wide receivers, it's not even fucking close.
From there, nothing's close in my opinion.
Offensive
Pending how
line,
Waller is,
million
I think
times
Waller
better.
is going to be good, but the offensive line's the most important unit on a football team is the offensive line.
And this is what brings me to the next thing.
That's the strongest position they have is offensive.
One step above the Lions, you've got the Vikings at 16.
That's
So I'm going to play
5%.
the game on if they're better than the Lions going forward. Obviously, I think the Vikings. How could it be better when it got worse?
It got worse.
They didn't add to it other than a receiver, and it's completely depleted. So I'm going to pass.
Their defense is what was depleted.
Yeah.
And they
Wasn't
didn't
there
do
off-
anything about it.
Yeah.
They didn't do anything about it.
Well, I mean, they tried. They drafted a couple of pieces, but they're going to have to start from day one, and they're going to go through a lot of bumps and growing pains with what they got.
I'm sorry. I
Their
think
defense got old.
The more I'm looking at you want to know something? I think there's a chance that the Vikings finish last in the division.
It's 2-horse race, Vikings and Bears. It's going to be one of those two teams. I think Lions, Packers 1-2, Vikings, Bears 3-4. That's how it's going to play out.
You want to know what? I think very quietly the NFC North is becoming one of the most interesting divisions in football.
It's a long play.
Yeah.
So how good is
Who
Jordan
has the
Love?
best quarterback? In,
How good is Jordan Love? How good is Justin Fields?
Who has the best quarterback?
who has the best quarterback in the division right now? As of right now today.
I think it's Jared Goff.
I do too.
I
do too.
I'm going to third that.
Really?
Yep.
I think he's the best quarterback in the division.
I think so too. Right now.
I really do.
Second.
Sorry?
It's probably got to be Cousins at the
It has to be Cousins.
You think Cousins is better than Jared Goff? I think
No,
they're
number
the same
two.
fucking guy.
Number two.
Yeah.
Second.
But the
Yeah.
intrigue, I know where it comes from. If Jordan Love is good, and if Justin
doesn't
Fields
shit the bed,
ends up performing better than
now
I
we've
think
got
he
to
is,
we got to
Right.
it's interesting for sure.
At 15 is Jacksonville.
I personally think the Lions have a better all-around roster than Jacksonville.
Really?
I don't like the Jags defense.
I like the Lions defense better than Jacksonville.
Yeah.
defense.
Everything else.
Jacksonville's defense is all number one picks, dude. Their entire defense is number one picks.
I mean, we can go through. I like Josh Allen. I think he's outstanding.
Walker.
Number one pick.
Trayvon Walker, who really underperformed, but he was good in the latter half of the season.
Alcoon is a monster.
The
at
Lions,
linebacker
the
position.
Lions secondary, I think, is better than the Jags.
Offensively, I'm giving the edge to the Jags just because I like all the pieces. I like where they fit, and they proved it.
Actually, I like the Lions' offensive line better than the Jags.
The Lions'
Better
offensive line, and that's the tiebreaker. That's why I think the Lions are better than the Jags
At
because
the
the
skill
offensive line.
positions, I would say Jacksonville's a little more talented
I
than
agree.
they are.
I agree.
At quarterback,
for sure.
I mean, you listen. He had a really good year last year. He had kind of the coming out, but you know what? Jared Goff still did him in. So that's all I'm going to say.
I disagree with 14 too.
14 is Pittsburgh.
I think the Lions have a better roster than the Steelers.
I do too.
I don't see it with their receivers. Love watching George Pickens. I don't think he's it. Allen Robinson might be in the twilight. I think Deontay Johnson's heavily overrated. Love Najee Harris
I think Jahmyr Gibbs could have a better year than Najee Harris.
easily, and Kenny Pickett has a chance. I think this is one of their most lackluster defenses in a long time. They just got a great coach, and they're going to compete. Their offensive line's good. It's not as good as the Lions. I'm taking the Lions over the Steelers.
I was blown away by 13. The Broncos.
I've been talking with a lot of people
So
that have been
much
knocking
fat.
me on the Sean Payton hot take. There's a lot of weight that's being placed, number one, on Sean Payton, and number two, that Russell Wilson is just going to magically return to form. He's just going to snap back.
Why is that, though? Because I'm sorry. He looked like somebody who was in a bad way last year. It was fucking awful. It was awful. And I don't know if a coach in an off season has the ability to turn this thing around.
No. And I see
That's the
holes.
first time that Russell Wilson had gone to a team without an established coach,
Yeah.
that a veteran established coach, and you've seen what you got.
Okay. Javonte Williams coming off of a bad leg. Jerry Judy Sutton, Tim Patrick.
No. I'm taking the
watched
Lions
it
over
for
those guys.
We've watched it already.
Cortland Sutton's a great player. At most, on his best day, he's a wide receiver too. He puts up a couple good games here or there, but he's not a number one wide receiver.
You know, Javonte Williams was a monster until he went down.
when he's healthy,
Come on.
that's a big question mark.
You know, I don't know what. There's a 5-guy string here that intrigues me. And that's Frank Clark, Randy Gregory, Josie Jewell, Alex Singleton, and Patrick Surtain. Outside of that, I don't know if there's that much there.
But a
Just
lot of
said
those
it
guys,
was all on the defensive side
Correct.
of the ball.
Nobody on
the
offense.
talent is on
Yeah.
the defensive side.
Nobody
of
on
I don't
offense
see it.
does anything.
I'm taking the Lions over the Broncos.
the Okay.
At 12, we have the Seattle Seahawks. It's hard to argue this. Yeah, Geno Smith, we all know what we know. Kenneth Walker, Metcalf, Lockett, Smith and Jigba. Noah Fant's kind of cute. Their offensive line, I'm going to give the edge to the Lions. The defense is intriguing because
Their defense is so young. They
the
got
front half.
Their back seven, everything in the back is that you can make it the case it's one of the best in the
Agreed.
league.
I'm gonna.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. From linebacker back here, you have a top 5 defense.
Yeah, their problem is the front seven. They haven't put it together yet.
I think I'm giving the edge on quarterback, obviously, to the Lions. You can make the case the Lions have it. I'll wait to see Jahmyr Gibbs on running back. Obviously, wide receivers go to the Seahawks. I think the Lions have the edge on tight end and have the edge on offensive line. I think the Lions might have the edge on D-line, but everything else, this is close. I can justify putting the Seahawks roster-wise in front of the Lions.
Yes.
Don't think Geno Smith's going to do enough this year to justify being number 12 on the team list.
Agree. At 11 is Baltimore.
Criminally underranked.
I agree. 1,000%.
I would say the same thing.
This is a top 5 all-around team. I don't know what the holes are. Maybe offensive line.
Offensive line is maybe a touch age.
Defensive line. Their defensive line is aged.
Interior
Yes.
defensive line's iffy.
Well, they haven't, you know what? They're still trying to find their outside. They haven't got a dominant outside pass rusher.
Listen to me.
And they haven't had one in quite some time.
You want to talk about interior defensive line? That's fine. Edge rushers are nice. Linebackers are nice. Corners, you can't. I mean, across the board, they have playmakers at almost every position.
Yeah.
I think
that's low for them.
because I'm not going to lie to you. At 10, they have the Jets,
No.
and
Their roster
think-
from top to bottom is better than the Jets.
I'm going to eat it on this
Baltimore
one, too,
go
because
above
I
the
think the Jets. Well, you know what? No. A lot of stock gets placed in their defense. They have a
Correct.
great defense. When it's healthy, it's great. I don't love much else outside of Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson and a little bit of Breece Hall. Same drill. That's a question mark until we see him.
agree.
I don't love this offensive line. So I don't know if this is a top 12
I'm taking
roster.
That's high
Baltimore
for
over
them.
the Jets
I would
without
put
thinking twice.
Baltimore in front of them.
Yeah, and you want to know what? Honest to God,
9 is so
I think
much
I'd put
fun.
Seattle above the Jets too.
Yeah, I would too. Both
Yeah.
of those. And I put the Lions above the Jets as well.
To me, and I didn't go through this list completely. I skipped around. This for me is fucking mind blowing. At 9 is the Cleveland fucking Browns.
Well,
I mean,
look at the core. Look at the core of the
what
team.
core? How?
Well, I mean,
What, we're going to talk about Nick Chubb and Amari Cooper?
I love Nick Chubb. I love Amari.
I know
A
you
lot
love
of
them,
stock.
but what the fuck else?
A lot of
Myles
stock is
Garrett.
placed in places that I don't like. I'll say this much: they have some pieces. I'll give them that. Number 9 roster, hell no.
No, God, no. I think this is below the Detroit Lions without thinking twice.
Yeah, but also it's not far. It's not far away. They need a handful. They need to add to each position group on defense, in my opinion.
Give me the Giants over them.
I'll probably take the Giants over them.
And you know where they should be? They should be right with the Saints.
Yeah, fair.
I think so too.
They should be right with the Saints. I mean, Deshaun Watson, Nick Chubb, Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, DPJ. That is not anything. I mean, when you go down to the Jets or even Baltimore, you're going to tell me the Browns have a better roster than Baltimore?
No.
That's criminal. That one's criminal to me. Because even defensively, I mean, if we want to be real about this, outside of Denzel Ward, Zadarius Smith, and Myles Garrett, who on that defense is changing the game?
I don't have an answer for you.
Okay. Number 8. I think this is low, but it's the San Francisco 49ers.
I think it's low. This is a top 5 roster.
I think it's low too.
The only question mark for me is the secondary. Everything else is near flawless.
That and the quarterback.
You love Hufanga.
Maybe on the quarterback. I think that could be a question mark.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm deferring.
I think that's why they're so low.
I'm deferring towards Purdy being the
Because
guy.
they know Purdy's not going to be ready.
Maybe
They're not.
He proposed this
They could
weekend,
tell
by the
everybody
way.
he's going to be ready. He's not going to be.
Purdy got engaged.
Congratulations to Brock Purdy.
Why?
He got engaged.
Anyway,
Number 7, the Chargers.
I think that's extremely high.
I feel like the
Aging
Chargers are
team.
living on where it was supposed to be 2 or 3 years ago. Because I
Yeah.
mean, it's just Keenan Allen and Mike Williams again. It's been
Derwin
done.
James,
It's been done. Derwin James is still a
Joe-
top guy.
Joey Bosa.
Against, if you go by the names, we're talking about top guys. I mean,
Yeah, but we're talking about
Bosa,
top
Khalil
guys
Mack,
5
J.C.
years ago.
Jackson, Derwin James, Keenan Allen. Like,
5 years ago.
I agree. It's a little
It's
bit late.
getting old. They're getting old. I think it's high for them.
6. The Dallas Cowboys.
They
have the best team
is
every year.
on
paper.
I mean, this is a good team on paper, is it not?
It is.
Yeah.
It's a great team on
Everything
paper.
you need is here. This is thus far out of rosters we've talked about.
The most complete.
Yeah.
Balance.
And I always forget that they traded for Stephon Gilmore too, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think a lot of things need to come together, and there needs to be a major gap in injuries for this to work out. And then Dak needs to play well. I don't think Tony Pollard's it, and there may be a little weak at tight end, but this is the best roster we've talked about so far.
Agree. 5 is Cincinnati.
I think this is high. I know you like Cincinnati. I think this is pretty high.
They lost a few pieces in the offseason.
They did. And I think the biggest hole is at safety. I think you have another big hole.
Corner's not.
They drafted a real young,
Corner.
a good safety.
You've got a hole. You still have your edge rushers in there. I mean, 5 might be a touch high. A touch.
It's a
I
top
would take
10
Dallas
roster.
over them, and I would take the 49ers over them.
Yeah.
I would too.
Offensively, it's still, I mean, pretty much the same song and dance that it's been. So,
It doesn't matter when you got Joe Burrow.
I'd take the Ravens over them too. By the way, did you say that? Did you say Baltimore?
no.
yeah,
Baltimore.
you got Joe
San
Burrow
Francisco.
and Jamar Chase. That's going to cancel out a lot of the Southern. shit.
And people. That's probably how they're looking at it.
That's exactly how they're looking at it.
4 is Miami.
They probably looking at it, had one of the most active off seasons, and they're going to end up with Dalvin Cook too.
They're going to be a juggernaut this year. I think they're going to be there right at the end. I think they're going to have to go to Kansas City and play the Chiefs.
Braxton Berrios made the chart.
Braxton Berrios on the chart here. Wide receiver 3.
It's Tua. The question mark is Tua.
The question mark is Tua.
Good when he plays.
Right.
Question mark is running back, in my opinion, 2. If they end up with Dalvin Cook, I think that justifies this spot a little bit more. But 4 might be a touch high.
I don't
Just
think it
a
is.
touch.
I don't think it is. They got a real nice mix of
I got a hot take.
veteran and young players.
I think their roster is better offensively and defensively than Team 3.
Team 3 is the Buffalo Bills.
Oh, they're better than Buffalo.
And this is
Top
a good
to bottom, they're better.
This is a good offense, but low key, I'm other than quarterback, I'm probably taking Dallas over this offense.
You know something? I
Yeah.
think you're right. I think
And
I agree with
and
that.
honestly, over the defense as well. There's a lot of damn good pieces in Buffalo.
Yes, sir. You
Um,
want to know what the problem is? Is it's the recency bias of we've seen this before and it doesn't work.
yeah,
And Miami is more new, exciting. They got big pieces there. Like
they had a monster. No, it's funny how no one's talking about the Dolphins. I think that's weird. And again, a lot of this list comes down to quarterback. And I think it's funny. It's going to be weird if Tua plays all 12 games. I think it's going to be good. It's going to be a good thing.
Listen to me. If Tua can't go, if Tua doesn't play 10 games this year, they're done. Put a fork in them.
Yeah,
Because
don't
Skylar
disagree.
Thompson's not the answer.
number 2, the Philadelphia Eagles.
Number 1 for both of you. And
I think they're
right?
number 1.
Number 1 for me as well.
They're every position's covered.
Every single.
I
spot
would
on
pick
the
Kansas
depth
City at about 3.
Whatever we think of DeAndre Swift, I think he makes them better. I think they have the best defense in football. It's them, maybe the Niners, the edge to the Eagles because of the secondary.
Oh, I think the Eagles are going to be outstanding this year. They're going to be better this year than they were last year.
So real quick, if I had to, because and obviously Kansas City's 1. If I had to change this and make my own top 5, it would be as follows. I would put Philadelphia 1.
Same.
I would put Miami 2.
Same.
I agree.
I would have Kansas City 3.
Okay.
You can't deny it.
I
at
agree
Kansas
with that.
City.
Go ahead.
'Cause, okay, here's the difference between Philadelphia and Kansas City for me. Philadelphia has every single spot on the depth chart covered. The Chiefs have almost every single spot on
Correct.
the depth chart covered.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So I would say Philadelphia, Miami, Kansas City.
San Francisco.
I think it'd be Frisco at 4.
Okay.
I put the Ravens at 5,
Ravens
but
at
I'm
5.
crazy.
I think
agree
I
with
would
that.
honestly. I would put either.
my mind right there.
I would put either Buffalo or Cincy 5, and the Ravens would be somewhere right underneath them. I think I'd probably put Cincinnati at 5.
Who is this Mike Clay? Mike Clay is off on a lot. I want to be. If you get your fantasy intel from Mike Clay, just be careful. Just be careful. That's all I'm telling you.
I think that's all we have time for today.
Okay.
Because my hour and 15-minute episode that I had planned for today ended up an hour 40, but that's okay. Because I think it was absolutely fantastic. So, do you have anything to add?
God bless the NFL.
Zolo?
Real original.
I'm good.
Bruce?
Good.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Tip Balls Podcast. Make sure to follow our socials, Instagram and Twitter at Tip Balls, TikTok at Tip Balls Podcast. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to check out our Spotify and Apple Music. And if you're listening to us, subscribe to us on YouTube. Ring the bell so you know when we go live. Thank you guys so much for listening.
Am
You'll
I
hear from us next week. What?
Am I perfect?
Always.